Welcome to the Lingo NAS Book Club, where literature meets language learning and where you get my perspective on the books that we read. And today we dive into one of the most haunting moments in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a scene that raises profound questions, important questions about loneliness, about justice, and also about moral responsibility and who are we to play God. Now, what happens in chapter 17? Well, the creature, the monster, confronts Victor Frankenstein with a desperate plea. Make me a companion, someone like me, so I am no longer alone. That is his plea. Give me a companion. Give me a wife. Give me a bride. Make me a companion, someone like me, so that I am no longer alone. But here's the twist. There's always a twist. This isn't just a request. It's a demand. It's a demand. It's a gameplay. It's filled with new emotions, new threats, new promises. There's this tug of war, give and take. Victor falling for the pleas, then taking a step back, and it's almost this dance of back and forth. It's dramatic. And the creature appeals to Victor's sense of duty as his creator. You created me, and so you need to take care of me. But he also warns him at the same time about the devastation he will bring if he is denied. So it's twofold here. One, he is imploring, praying, begging. But on the other hand, he's threatening. It's very dramatic. So before we begin this reading, think about this. What happens when a creator abandons their creation? I think this story tells the tale, doesn't it? And as you're listening to this reading, as you walk down this path with me, think about this. Should Victor give in to the creature's demands? Or would creating another monster be a greater threat, but not just a greater threat, but maybe even a greater sin? Now, fasten your seatbelts. Prepare yourself for a reading that is dramatic. It is as much a moral dilemma as it is a chilling narrative. It's going to move you. Grab a cup of tea, grab a coffee, and settle down. Let's uncover what makes this moment one of, oh, I've got chills, one of the most powerful in literary history. Are you ready? Let's dive in. The being finished speaking and fixed his looks upon me in the expectation of a reply. So the monster concluded his speech and looked at Frankenstein, waiting for his reply, his response. But I was bewildered, perplexed, and unable to arrange my ideas sufficiently to understand the full extent of his proposition. But I was so confused. I had no answer for him. I couldn't even arrange my thoughts, arrange my ideas. I couldn't fully understand what he was asking. I couldn't understand the full extent of it. He continued, "You must create a female for me with whom I can live in the interchange of those sympathies necessary for my being." Wow, you need to create a companion for me. This you alone can do, and I demand it of you as a right which you must not refuse to concede. So, Frankenstein, you are the only one who can do this, and this is not a request, it's a demand. It is my right, and you cannot say no, basically. And you can also not ignore the fact that I'm entitled to this. The latter part of his tale had kindled anew in me the anger that had died away while he narrated his peaceful life among the cottagers. And as he said this, I could no longer suppress the rage that burnt within me. So there seems to have been a truce. There seems to have been a moment during which the monster was behaving. He was living peacefully among the villagers. And so Frankenstein had let go of his anger, but now, when he said this, the latter part of what he said just rekindled that anger. And I don't think I'm exaggerating if I say that he was seeing red. And then Frankenstein replies, I do refuse it, I replied, and no torture shall ever extort a consent from me. So, no way. This is not happening. And no amount of torture is going to make me change my mind. There's no way that I can be made to say yes. You can torture me, do as you please. You may render me the most miserable of men, but you shall never make me base in my own eyes. So you can make me miserable, but I will stand by my convictions. Shall I create another like yourself, whose joint wickedness might desolate the world? So if I create another one like you, there's going to be two of you. And then your joint wickedness, the two of you together. Now, what could possibly happen? Well, they could mate, they could have children, or they just partners in crime, the two of them together. We already have one monster that's out of control. And if I create another one, we're going to have two. Double the trouble, shall we say. Be gone, go away. I have answered you. You may torture me, but I will never consent. So he's making it very clear that he's not afraid and he's just not going to change his mind, even under the threat of torture. You are in the wrong, replied the fiend, and instead of threatening, I am content to reason with you. So, Frankenstein, I'm not wrong, you are wrong. And no, I'm not going to threaten you. I'm happy to talk to you, to be reasonable with you, to discuss this with you. I am malicious because I am miserable. So, my behavior stems from the fact that I am a very, very unhappy creature. I am miserable. And this, I think, will resonate with many of us, whether we are the ones who are miserable or whether we are surrounded by people who are miserable. And sometimes you see these people act out and they are malicious, they're ugly, they're nasty, and you wonder why. And here's the answer. When someone is miserable, that's what they project. They want everyone else around them to be miserable, so they become malicious, they become nasty. And he's explaining it so honestly. Am I not shunned and hated by all mankind? Well, this is true, right? You, my creator, would tear me to pieces and triumph. Remember that. Well, if you had a choice, Frankenstein, you would destroy me. And tell me why I should pity man more than he pities me. So, why should I pity my enemy? He doesn't care about me. He doesn't pity me. He has no empathy for me. Why should I have any for him? You would not call it murder if you could precipitate me into one of those ice rifts and destroy my frame, the work of your own hands. So, if you destroyed me, if you threw me into one of those ice rifts, you actually wouldn't call it murder because you don't consider me a being. You don't consider me to be on the same level as man. Okay. And I am the work of your own hands. I am your creation. You would kill me, you would destroy me, but you wouldn't call it murder. He has a valid point because Frankenstein would probably say he's saving mankind. Yeah, from his own creation. It's almost like a mother has a child who is a sociopath, who's a serial killer, and then throws him down an ice rift, murders him, but doesn't call it murder. Says that I was just acting for the good of society. And if you think about this for a moment, how is this monster any different from a child? Are they both not creations? And I really would like to hear your perspective on this. Um, shall I respect man when he condemns me? Let him live with me in the interchange of kindness, and instead of injury, I would bestow every benefit upon him with tears of gratitude at his acceptance. If only, if only, if only man would live with me, would be kind to me. Instead of injuring them, I would be so grateful. I would shed tears of gratitude. But that cannot be. The human senses are insurmountable barriers to our union. So the problem is that the human senses are the barrier keeping humans away from me. And I'm not quite sure which senses he's referring to, but definitely sight, because he is repulsive to look at. And human beings, man cannot sometimes see beyond the physical ugliness to the beauty within. So I'm going to say it's definitely sight. It could be smell, if he smells vile and foul, and maybe even hearing the sounds that he makes. And touch, if anyone gets close enough to touch him, I think they're going to feel repulse. So they are not engaging with me as one soul to another. They are viewing me simply through the barrier of their senses. Yet mine shall not be the submission of abject slavery. I'm not just going to be your slave. I'm not going to submit to slavery. I will revenge my injuries. If I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear, and chiefly towards you, my arch enemy, because my creator, do I swear inextinguishable hatred. So if I can't make them love me, I will make them fear me. And you know who's top of my list? You, Frankenstein. You are my greatest enemy, my arch enemy, and my hatred, my fury. It is like a raging fire that cannot be put out, that cannot be extinguished. Have a care. Be careful. I will work at your destruction. I will destroy you, nor finish until I desolate your heart, so that you shall curse the hour of your birth. I won't stop. I will not stop until you are so broken, until you are cursing the fact that you were even born. A fiendish rage animated him as he said this. His face was wrinkled into contortions too horrible for human eyes to behold. But presently he calmed himself and proceeded. So not only were his words passionately angry, vile, threatening, but it was also his demeanor, his body language, and his face screwed up into ugliness. Have you ever seen someone who was really, really angry and their face contorted? It almost looks like they have been possessed by evil, by a demon. And the monster is right. This is what we as humans see. True story, right? And then suddenly he just calms himself and he proceeds to speak. I intended to reason. My intention was to have a calm, rational conversation with you to make you see my point of view. This passion is detrimental to me, for you do not reflect that you are the cause of its excess. So all this passion, it's bad for me, all these emotions. And you don't realize that you are the reason I'm suffering. If any being, if any human being felt emotions of benevolence towards me, kindness towards me, I would return them 100 and 100-fold. So if you showed me one act of kindness, I would show you, I would return it 100 times over. For that one creature's sake, I would make peace with the whole kind. And here I think he is again referring to the companion that he wants. So if you give me this, I would make peace with the whole of mankind. So when he says the whole kind, he means mankind. But I now indulge in dreams of bliss that cannot be realized. I now realize that these are all fanciful dreams. What I ask of you is reasonable and moderate. I demand a creature of another sex, but as hideous as myself. So all I'm asking you is a companion, and yeah, make her as ugly, as hideous as myself. And it's kind of sad that he has this awareness of just how hideous, ugly, and repulsive he is. And imagine living in a world where everyone thought you were ugly, and then you met a person who shared your same physical traits. That person wouldn't find you ugly, would she? Maybe that's what he wants. He wants acceptance. The gratification is small, but it is all that I can receive, and it shall content me. So it will make me content. I will be content with it. I will be happy. I will be satisfied with it. So it's not a huge reward that you're giving me. It's small, but I know that I can't really ask for more. But it's enough for me. It shall content me. It's enough. I'll be satisfied with it. It is true. We shall be monsters cut off from the world. But on that account, we shall be more attached to one another. So, yes, we will be monsters. The world does not want us, but at least we will have each other. Our lives will not be happy, but they will be harmless and free from the misery I now feel. So, I don't consider this to be my utopia or, you know, a state of bliss and joy. No, I understand we're not going to be blissfully happy, but we won't have all this fiery energy, this destructive energy, these passionate emotions coursing through our veins. So we'll be harmless, and I won't be as miserable as I am now. Oh, my Creator, make me happy. Imagine a child saying that to its mother. Oh, my mother, make me happy. That's what the monster is doing. And you may have realized by now that I feel a lot of empathy for the monster because he did not ask to be created. And I've heard many children say this. We did not ask to be born. And parents and adults take a very dim view of this. They refuse to be challenged, to be questioned, to be held accountable. That's what I think it is, to be held accountable. So they don't like these conversations. And I think, obviously, Frankenstein doesn't like this conversation, but if you think about the real world, it happens. Children say this to parents. Maybe it's time we all listened without waiting to respond and without judging. Maybe this is a lesson in empathy. Whether you agree or disagree, listen. Don't just hear what the person is saying, but truly listen. Oh, my Creator, make me happy. Let me feel gratitude towards you for one benefit. Let me see that I excite the sympathy of some existing thing. Do not deny me my request. So let me be grateful for the one thing, just one thing, one benefit. Let me be grateful to you. And if you think about it, Frankenstein created this monster, and what does the monster benefit from all of this? Nothing. Nada. Misery. Isolation. But he says, if you give me this, I can be grateful to you for something, even if it's just one thing. And let me see, show me that you feel some sympathy for me, that I excite the sympathy, that I can create sympathy of some existing thing so that I can make a living being feel sympathy for me instead of all this horror and hatred. Do not deny me my request. I was moved. So Frankenstein really hears him, listens, feels, but then his rational mind takes over. And I mean, I can't say that I blame him. I shuddered when I thought of the possible consequences of my consent, but I felt that there was some justice in his argument. So, yeah, Frankenstein is weighing the pros and cons, looking at it from both sides, is probably making a mental list in his head, but he concedes that his argument is justified. He is right. His tale, his story, and the feelings he now expressed proved him to be a creature of fine sensations. And did I not, as his maker, owe him all the portion of happiness that it was in my power to bestow? So these requests, these emotions that he has, this need for a partner, it shows that he's not a base creature. He's not just some animal monster. He feels things, finds sensations, emotions. He's not just a basic, brutal, animalistic almost monster. And I'm his maker. Don't I owe him some happiness? And yes, it is within my power. So he saw my change of feeling and continued. So the monster has this awareness and senses that Frankenstein is softening, he's melting, he's weakening, he's open to the suggestion. If you consent, neither you nor any other human being shall ever see us again. I will go to the vast wilds of South America. My food is not that of man. I do not destroy the lamb and the kid to glut my appetite. Acorns and berries afford me sufficient nourishment. Now, when he says this, think about this. Man says that he is kind and good, and he accuses here man of slaughtering lambs, and the kid, the baby goat, I think is the kid, right? So you guys are, he makes it sound like carnivores. Okay. But then he juxtaposes this with who he is, and he's this vegetarian. I don't think if it's even vegetarian, he's probably vegan. He's eating acorns and berries. He is not harming a living creature for his appetite, right? Because he says, glut my appetite. Now, there's a difference between feeding your appetite, eating food for survival, and glut. Have you heard the word gluttony? Greed. So he's making a pretty harsh, but also pretty accurate assessment here. And it is an accusation. My companion will be of the same nature as myself and will be content with the same fare. So fare, we're not talking about a bus fare or a train fare. We're talking about food, the same thing. So my companion will also be a vegetarian, vegan, acorn and berry eating monster. We're not going to roam the wilds of South America, attacking lambs and sheep and cows. And no, we're going to live off the land. We're just going to eat acorns and berries, live off the land. That's a nice phrase. We shall make our bed of dried leaves. The sun will shine on us as on man and will ripen our food. So we're going to live off the land. The sun will shine on us. The sun will shine on the berries and the acorns. Everything will grow. It's going to be peaceful. There's no violence here. Not even the violence of killing a lamb for a good, juicy lamb chop. Okay. And the picture I present to you is peaceful and human. And you must feel that you could deny it only in the wantonness of power and cruelty. So let me read that again. The picture I present to you is peaceful and human, and you must feel that you could deny it only in the wantonness of power and cruelty. So I am painting you a picture of a peaceful life, and the only reason you would deny it is because you want to wield your power, because you want to be cruel, pitiless. As you have been towards me, you've shown me no empathy, no pity, no kindness. I now see compassion in your eyes. I see a change. Let me seize the favorable moment and persuade you to promise what I so ardently desire. So, you've never shown me kindness, but now, today, in this moment, I see compassion in your eyes. I see kindness in your eyes. So let me seize this moment. Let me take advantage of this moment. Let me grab this opportunity and persuade you, convince you to promise to give me what I want so desperately, just a companion. You propose, replied I, to fly from the habitations of man, to dwell in those wilds where the beasts of the field will be your only companions. How can you, who long for the love and sympathy of man, persevere in this exile? So you're saying that you will survive in the wilds, but let's be honest, all along, you have wanted so desperately to connect with man. So is it really plausible? Is it really possible? Is it really believable that you will persevere, that you will continue in this exile, that you will stay true to your word, that you will persevere, you will continue in this exile? No, no, no. You will return and again seek their kindness. And you will meet with their detestation. They detest you, detestation. So you have a vision of how it's going to work out. But the reality is that you want acceptance from these people. It's almost an addiction. It's like a drug. So you will return. And when you return, they're just going to detest you all over again. Nothing's going to change. And then you know what will happen? Let me tell you, your evil passions will be renewed. Okay. And then you are going to react the way you react now, with anger, with violence, evil passion. And you will then have a companion to aid you in the task of destruction. And when that happens, it's not like now when you are alone, there will be two of you. You will have someone beside you to help you as you destroy, as you walk this path of vengeance and anger and destruction. This may not be. No, no, no. It cannot be, cannot happen. Cease to argue the point. Cease and desist. It's a legal term. Stop. Cease and desist. So cease to argue the point. Stop. Stop arguing the point. Stop trying to convince me. For I cannot consent. I just can't do it because, you know what? I see the big picture. Right now, I have one problem. You asking me to create two. Nope, not going there. And the monster says, how inconstant are your feelings? Like, can't you just stick to one emotion? You went from this to that to this to that. Come on. A moment ago, just a moment ago, you were moved by my representations. You were touched. You felt something. You were empathetic. And why do you again harden yourself to my complaints? I mean, just a moment ago, you understood. And now you again are closed off to everything that I'm saying. You harden yourself to my complaints. You are deaf to everything that I'm saying. I swear to you, by the earth which I inhabit, and by you that made me, that with the companion you bestow, I will quit the neighborhood of man and dwell, as it may chance, in the most savage of places. So, actually, the pronunciation is bestow. You bestow a gift on someone. And like I always say, I just read the text for the first time with you guys. I don't pre-read or prepare because I really want to have a natural reaction to everything that's happening. I don't like filters. I want it to be authentic. The only filters I like are Instagram filters. So bestow. So, you bestow things on people you love. God bestows blessings on us, right? So he's almost likening Frankenstein to a supreme being, to a godly creature, a creator, because that's what Frankenstein is. And he says, bestow on me, just like, in many religions, they say God will bestow his grace on you. God will bestow blessings on you. God bestows. And now he's asking Frankenstein to bestow. So he's elevating Frankenstein to this rank, to this higher status. He is, I mean, respectful. And he has this deep awareness, which is probably why he's struggling so much. He's caught between the world of monsters and the world of man. And he says, I will quit and I will go live in a savage place, and my evil passions will have fled. He truly believes that once he has this companion, things will really be different. For I shall meet with sympathy because she will understand me, she will love me, she will be kind to me. I'll get sympathy from her. She'll understand. We'll both be in this same boat together. Oh, and I didn't expect that when I said a boat. My life will flow quietly away. So, this image of sailing. And in my dying moments, I shall not curse my maker. Ooh, that's powerful. So, give me this companion, and I will sail off into the savage sunset with her. It doesn't matter how desolate you think it is. For me, it will be a happy place, somewhat happy place. And at the end of my life, I won't be filled with hatred and I won't be filled with anger and I won't hate you. I will not curse you. His words had a strange effect upon me. I compassionated him. I felt compassion and sometimes felt a wish to console him. I almost wanted to reach out and hold him, hug him, console him like a mother would a child. But when I looked upon him, when I saw the filthy mass that moved and talked, my heart sickened and my feelings were altered to those of horror and hatred. And the monster was right. Man experiences the world only through his five senses. Because even Frankenstein is just repulsed by him, but repulsed by what? Not by his essence, not by his soul, not by his words, not by his heart. No, he's simply repulsed by what? The filthy mess that moved and talked, and my heart sickened. Well, hello, you created him. You created him. At this point, I want to reach out and punch Frankenstein because it's like a mother saying, I hate this child. I don't care that she has this beautiful heart and soul, that she's struggling, that she needs love and care. All I see is that she's ugly, the way she moves, the way she talks. I don't know why, but I feel that Frankenstein needs to accept his role as creator just like a mother would. That's just how I feel right now. So I guess I'm on Team Monster. Which team are you on? And it's okay to be on Frankenstein's team. We all allowed to have a different reaction because we see the world through, yes, our five senses, but also through our own experiences. And then what happens next? I tried to stifle these sensations. I tried to stamp down, erase my disgust, right? I thought that as I could not sympathize with him, I had no right to withhold from him the small portion of happiness which was yet in my power to bestow. So I couldn't sympathize with him, but I could give him what he wanted. I shouldn't withhold that. I had no right to stop him from having what would make him happy, a very small portion of happiness. I couldn't make him wildly, deliriously happy, joyful, jubilant, but I could give him this small portion of happiness, and I had no right to hold it from him. You swear, I said, to be harmless, but have you not already shown a degree of malice that should reasonably make me distrust you? May not even this be a feint that will increase your triumph by affording a wider scope for your revenge? So he says to the monster, look, you promise, you give me your word to be harmless, but you've already shown malice. You've already shown that other side. And that should make me distrust you, no? And maybe this is a feint. So when we say something is a feint, it's like an act. So maybe this is an act, and it will increase your victory, and it will give you a wider scope for your revenge. So you've already shown me what you're capable of. And what if you are acting now, you're pretending, and then I give you what you want because I'm taken in by this feint, by this act? And then what's the outcome? Double trouble. You have a wider scope for your revenge. How is this? I must not be trifled with. Don't mess with me. And I demand an answer. If I have no ties and no affections, hatred and vice must be my portion. The love of another will destroy the cause of my crimes, and I shall become a thing of whose existence everyone will be ignorant. So, Stop messing with me. I need an answer. I want an answer. I demand an answer. Right now, I have no ties. I'm not linked with anyone. I have no family ties, no friendship, no bonds, nothing. No affections, no love, no caring, nothing. So, what does that leave me with? Yes, hatred. Yes, crime, vice, doing bad things. Because what else do I have? That must be my portion. That must be my life. I don't have anything else. Do I have love? Do I have companionship? No, I have nothing. So, isn't it just completely logical that hatred would be normal? That vice, doing all these bad things would be normal because I don't have anything good. And if we go back to what I said, when people are malicious, it comes from a place of misery, from a place that's empty, a place that's desolate, a place of lack. Because you know what? People who are fulfilled, people who have bonds, people who have love, those people are not evil. They don't go around attacking people. Those who go around attacking people, there's something so broken inside them. And we can see it here. And if you give me a companion, the love of another, it will destroy the reason why I'm doing these bad things. Give me the companion and I will no longer commit these crimes because I'll have no reason to, because I will not be unhappy. I'm committing these crimes because I'm miserable. Give me the companion and I won't be miserable. If I'm not miserable, I won't do bad things. Like, hello, which part are you not getting? And I shall become something that you will never see again. Everyone will be ignorant of my existence. I'm just going to disappear. My vices are the children of a forced solitude that I abhor, hate. And my virtues will necessarily arise when I live in communion with an equal. So, my vices are the children of a forced solitude. Because I'm alone, because I'm lonely, it has resulted, it has given birth to my vices, all the bad things that I do. So that's the idea of the children give birth to all this evil. It's because of my loneliness. My loneliness created, just like create children, my loneliness created all this bad behavior, basically. And I hate this loneliness. I abhor it. You know, there are some people who are alone, and then there's some people who are lonely, and some people love solitude, and some people just feel lonely in that solitude. And he's clearly one who hates it, who abhors it, but probably because he didn't even have a choice in it, right? And my virtues, all the goodness in me will arise, will come forth. It will be like a glow up when I live in communion with an equal, when I am in a relationship with a partner, with someone who is my equal, someone just like me. I shall feel the affections of a sensitive being and become linked to the chain of existence and events from which I am now excluded. So I'll have someone to love me. I'll have someone who is sensitive, not just repulsed. And I'll join the world of loving, the world of emotion, the world of companionship, all the things that I know I don't have right now, I'm excluded from right now. I paused some time to reflect on all he had related and the various arguments which he had employed. So I stopped and I thought about everything he'd said, all of his arguments, all of his reasoning. I thought of the promise of virtues which he had displayed on the opening of his existence and the subsequent blight of all kindly feeling by the loathing and scorn which his protectors had manifested towards him. So I also thought about his promises to be virtuous, to be kind. And you know what? At the beginning of his existence, at the opening of his existence, when I first created him, he was that. And then, subsequent, after that, following that, the blight, so the ugliness of all kindly feeling by the loathing and scorn. So his behavior was a reaction. He says it's the children of his circumstances. So the ugliness that people saw in his behavior, or his ugly, vile, criminal behavior, whatever you want to call it, his vices, it's because of how he was treated. His power and threats were not omitted in my calculation. So while I was weighing the pros and cons, I didn't disregard his power, his physical power, his ability to destroy me and so many others. I also didn't disregard his threats because he had made threats. A creature who could exist in the ice caves of the glaciers and hide himself from pursuit among the ridges of inaccessible precipices. Hold on a moment. Was a being possessing faculties it would be vain to cope with. So I had to also understand that this creature was powerful. He could do whatever he wanted to, and then he could hide in inaccessible regions. And he possessed powers, faculties I couldn't possibly cope with. After a long pause of reflection, I concluded that the justice due both to him and my fellow creatures demanded of me that I should comply with his request. Turning to him, therefore, I said, so I thought about what he wanted. I also thought about what was best for my fellow human beings, and I decided to agree with him, give in to his request, say yes, basically. I consent to your demand. I'll do it. On your solemn oath to quit Europe forever and every other place in the neighborhood of man, as soon as I shall deliver into your hands a female who will accompany you in your exile. I want your promise, I want your oath that once I give you a companion, you will leave Europe. You will also leave any place where man lives. I swear, he cried, by the sun and by the blue sky of heaven, and by the fire of love that burns my heart, that if you grant my prayer, while they exist, you shall never behold me again. So he does consider him to be a godly figure because he is his creator. Frankenstein is his creator because he says, grant me my prayer. And who do humans pray to? To a higher being. And this monster is praying to Frankenstein because in his eyes, Frankenstein is the higher being. Depart to your home and commence your labors. Get started on this project. I shall watch their progress with unutterable anxiety. I mean, I can't even talk about, how anxious and excited and, all kinds of emotions. I can't even utter them. And fear not, but that when you are ready, I shall appear. So when my companion's ready, I will return. Saying this, he suddenly quitted me. He left. fearful perhaps of any change in my sentiments. So he left very quickly before I could change my mind. I saw him descend the mountain with greater speed than the flight of an eagle, and quickly lost among the undulations of the sea of ice. And he left running faster than an eagle, with a spring in his step. His tale had occupied the whole day, so this conversation took the whole day, and the sun was upon the verge of the horizon when he departed, so at sunset. I knew that I ought to hasten my descent towards the valley. I needed to get going. I needed to hasten, to start, to fasten, to go faster, as I should soon be encompassed in darkness, because it was almost nightfall, it's sunset, but my heart was heavy and my steps slow. Can you see that difference between the two? Frankenstein is feeling heavy and weighed down, and the monster has the spring in his step. He's almost dancing down the mountain. The hard work of winding among the little parts of the mountain and fixing my feet firmly as I advanced perplexed me. Occupied as I was by the emotions which the occurrences of the day had produced, it was an emotionally draining day for him. Night was far advanced when I came to the halfway resting place and seated myself beside the fountain, so it was already nightfall. The stars shone at intervals as the clouds passed over them. The dark pines rose before me, and every here and there a broken tree lay on the ground. It was a scene of wonderful solemnity, and stirred strange thoughts within me. So if someone is solemn, they are silent. Solemnity, beautiful word, and stirred strange thoughts within me, and I started thinking strange things. I wept bitterly, and clasping my hands in agony, I exclaimed, "Oh, stars and clouds and winds, you are all about to mock me. If you really pity me, crush sensation and memory. Let me become as naught. But if not, depart, and leave me in darkness." So here I get the feeling that he sees all this beauty around him, the clouds and the winds and the stars and God's beautiful creations. And it's like you mocking me, you making fun of me because I tried to play God, and I created this monster. And if you pity me, destroy me. Just destroy me right now. Crush me. Crush sensation. Crush memory. Erase me. Let me become as naught. So let me become nothing. I think it's almost a wish to die. But if not, depart, go, and leave me in darkness, because it is all darkness around him. These were wild and miserable thoughts, but I cannot describe to you how the eternal twinkling of the stars weighed upon me, and how I listened to every blast of wind as if it were a dull, ugly siroc on its way to consume me. Now, if anyone knows the meaning of siroc, please do put it in the comments below. Morning dawned before I arrived at the village of Chamonix. I took no rest, but returned immediately to Geneva. So it was a long, long journey back. Even in my own heart, I could give no expression to my sensations. They weighed on me with a mountain's weight, and their excess destroyed my agony beneath them. Thus I returned home, and entering the house, presented myself to the family. My haggard and wild appearance awoke intense alarm. So my family was shocked and alarmed and maybe even frightened by the way I looked. But I answered no questions. Scarcely did I speak. I didn't answer any questions. I could barely speak. I felt as if I were placed under a ban, as if I had no right to claim their sympathies, as if never more might I enjoy companionship with them. And this almost feels like an expulsion. And I don't know if you'd agree with this, but he's starting to feel what the monster is feeling, being on the fringes of this world, not being a part of it. Yet even thus I love them to adoration, and to save them I resolve to dedicate myself to my most abhorred task. So that word abhor again. The monster abhors the loneliness, and now Frankenstein abhors what he has to do, creating a companion. But he's doing it to save his family, to save mankind, to save everyone. The prospect of such an occupation made every other circumstance of existence pass before me like a dream, and that thought only had to me the reality of life. And at this point, he's totally focused on the creation of another monster. And even though he hates the idea of doing it, he knows that he has no other choice. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was chapter 17 of Frankenstein. A scene that forces us to confront some of humanity's deepest fears: loneliness, rejection, and also the consequences of unchecked ambition, of maybe wanting to play God. And for me, the creature's words echo long after this chapter ends. I am alone and miserable. This plea is heartbreaking, but it's also terrifying. What happens when someone, or in this case, something, though I'm not ready to call the monster a thing, so I'm going to go back to what happens when someone has nothing left to lose. Now tell me, what do you think? Should Victor have agreed to create a companion for the creature? Was he right to hesitate, fearing the consequences of his actions? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this reading, make sure to like, subscribe. You know what to do. It's free, it doesn't cost you a thing. And join me next time, because if you loved this one, we're going to explore more iconic moments in literature. Until then, remember, stories like this teach us as much about ourselves as they do about characters. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's the beauty of books. And that's why I have always been, I am, and always will be a bookworm.